just seeing that evolution is really cool because it started out as that steamleo.com, which is now leofinance.io, and that tokenized second layer blogging community. Now we've got, just talking about the products, we've got Leo Mobile, we've got CubFinance, PolyCub, which just launched, Leo Bridge, Leofi, Leo Dex, Hive Stats, and then obviously Project Blank in the future. But just an expansive mindset is really the core of what we do.
It's time. It's about time we talked a bit more about Khalil and Leofinance and how that links in with Hive and what it's doing. What's the latest updates? So, I guess Khalil will give you the floor for a few minutes here to inform people who are listening on how they can benefit from Leofinance and what's going on, and like what's your next steps, and tell us about some of these airdrops that are going on.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, kind of just I guess kind of a cool segue from what we were just talking about with UBI and Taskmaster and what people are doing with Web3. That's really what Leofinance is all about, which is having that what many of us talk about, which is like a layer zero of community members, the hardcore people, not just diamond hands, but diamond minds in a way, just always there, always participating, always seeking to grow their stake, and grow the platform that it's built on. That's really the vision of Leofinance, which is this expansive mindset, this abundant mindset of Web3. These opportunities that we've kind of touched on already are just taking over the world, and I think many of us see that it's only going to continue to grow. That set of opportunities is going to continue to expand, and at the same time, the people who have access to them are going to continue to expand too. So what's really exciting for us is just being able to build on this stuff, and for the last 3 years we've been doing that, pretty much before Web3 was even that big of a conversation. These days it's a big conversation, and everyone's talking about tokenization and NFTs and different things that you can do in this dynamic landscape, and having had a front row seat to all of this stuff being built is really cool, and to me that's a lot of value that I've gotten out of it, is just being able to watch everything evolve and be a part of it.
So what's Leofinance do? What's your general, just on the top level, what are you guys trying to do? What are your main products that you've built that people can use?
Yeah. So, the vision is just to expand that Web3 opportunity set. So, I always drive home this point that our goal as a project is to expand the width and depth of our community. So, when I talk about width, I talk about going out to other blockchains and other ecosystems and trying to grab the attention of other users and bring them into the fold of our community, just to expand our monthly active users and KPIs like that. And then outside of that, you've got the idea of depth, which is to build more applications and more opportunities for the existing, community that's already there. So, what started out as, and back in the day, we were called Steamleo when we started, but what is now, Leofinance and Leofinance.io.
I nearly forgot about that, man.
Yeah.
That's years ago.
It's funny. It's funny to look back at that old content, but it's, it feels like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And just seeing that evolution is really cool because it started out as that steamleo.com, which is now leofinance.io, and that tokenized second layer blogging community. Now we've got, just talking about the products, we've got Leo Mobile, we've got CubFinance, PolyCub, which just launched, Leo Bridge, Leofi, Leo Dex, Hive Stats, and then obviously Project Blank in the future. But just an expansive mindset is really the core of what we do.
So just to, I mean, without going into detail on all of them, because I think there's just too many. You've built too many bloody things for one show. But can you give the people listening, and obviously people, this is being recorded, so people who will listen back, like give an in-depth of a couple of the products that you think could benefit people the most, and how they can use those and what they're intended to do. We get a bit more context on what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're just getting started, really what we were talking about before this, which is doing the approach of like what a Taskmaster is doing, where you're going onto Leofinance and you're engaging with people in the community and on Web3 and kind of building out that profile. You're doing a lot of things simultaneously by doing that. So on Leofinance.io, talking about crypto and finance and that kind of niche of topics. What you're doing is you're building out a profile on Web3 on the Hive blockchain. That profile can never be taken away from you. A lot of the stuff that we were just talking about, and I think that's the best place to start, is just to expand. You're coming from Web2, you're coming from the old regimes of society, and if you move on to these Web3 platforms like Leofinance and build out your brand, build out your profile, and start stacking some rewards, and then you expand from there. You get the mobile app. So obviously Leo Mobile is just a mobile app version of Leofinance, and obviously just expanding what you can do on the platform. Then you start looking at things like CubFinance and PolyCub, which are DeFi platforms, and the reason why we develop those types of platforms is so that for the future we can expand to these other blockchains. Exactly what I was saying before. Everything we do goes to that core mission of expanding width and depth. So with projects like PolyCub, what we're doing is going to another blockchain and trying to attract those users, but also bring in that depth of value. So when you're just diving in, obviously you can start at a place where you can just engage with content, read content, write content, and then kind of take it from there and get more deeply involved.
So this is really cool to me, because Dan and I, with the Speak Network, we're trying to build this ability out so that people can spin up their own communities with as little effort as possible, have their own front ends, do it as cheaply as possible, have their own tokens. And you guys really were the first, as far as I'm aware, pretty much the first serious group to do that, where you guys took a copy of the Hive blog front end condenser, and then basically, well, this was back in the days of Steam, and then basically modified it to customize it to the way you wanted it to look, and then launched a token. And you've got your own front end blogging platform. As a result, you grow your community. It's got its own token, its own market cap, and it just kind of spirals from there. And so you guys are really the model of this decentralized tokenized community system that was really the first people to have done it, as far as I can see. And now Dan and I are trying to build out so that that's really easy for people to do, and really copying your footsteps as to how you guys have built and grown. So I think that's really, really cool. And maybe you could just mention what your thoughts were behind doing that, and why you guys decided to do that so long ago, and where you've come to since then.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of brings me to like the interesting history of how it started is, I used to read. So obviously I've been interested in finance and stocks and investing my whole life. So I used to read Seeking Alpha and spend a lot of time on different platforms where you could just read about finance and try to learn about investments and the future of what's happening in technology. So what kind of led me down that path is that actually when I was in college, I found Steam and started creating content on Steam. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, that you could sit in a room and talk about stuff and create content and get paid for it, because this was even kind of during the Instagram influencer revolution. It's like people can start earning from doing the things that they love, and that's kind of the evolution we've seen over the last decade. So I got started on Steam and started getting into the community that is obviously now Hive, and I started learning and meeting everybody, and then I realized there was this opportunity when Hive Engine came out to basically take a framework and create what I thought could be basically and Taskmaster knows a lot about this vision, to create basically a Web3 version of Seeking Alpha, where Seeking Alpha is a very centralized system. They have paid authors, and they take some massive cut, like 60% of the payouts that their authors get from their paid courses and whatever. And I kind of saw that, and I was like, maybe we can do that with this new framework on the Hive blockchain, and kind of take what's here as this base layer of decentralization and build on top of it and kind of leverage it in our favor. And that's really how it started. And then from there, the community started to grow, and the interest level of people in blogging and talking about finance and crypto started to grow. And then we kind of realized, hey, there's all these adjacent products that we can build. And a lot of people have heard me say that I kind of I kind of admire this kind of Apple cult philosophy that obviously Steve Jobs built through Apple, which is, you know, having all these different products, but they all kind of build into the same kind of cult following and cult network. And that's really what we're trying to do with Leofinance, which is all these different products are built kind of adjacent to each other, but they also are deeply connected to each other. So the vision really expanded over time from just being a Web3 front end, you know, blogging community to being all these different applications and kind of all driving into that core mission.
So now we've got to work out who the cult leader is, whether it's you or Taskmaster.
Good argument could be made for both.
Yeah, no, that's super cool, man. And honestly, like one of our key goals, and we're pretty close to it here. We're pretty close on Speak Network. It's to basically take that model that you guys have built and really we're really inspired by it, and allow people to, in the most simple way and cheapest way possible, you know, grab their URL, grab their server, point that in the direction of the front end, let them upload their logo, change the colors, and boom, you've got a front end with a community and a token on the back of it. And now you can start posting and interacting in the same way. Obviously, that's a very rudimentary model of what you guys have got in place now after all this time developing. But yeah, the principle's there, and we want to be able to replicate that as easy as possible for as many people as possible, because it gives you you know, you guys are effectively sovereign. Your community is sovereign, and it's owned by the community, and it's got its platform that people can log into, post on. You can't be shut down. They can't lose their accounts. They've got their own tokens. The other thing that amazed me about Leofinance is, you know, people are posting for Leofinance, and then I've seen people that have gone to Leofinance, posted, and then 6 months later been like, oh, so shit, I've got all this Hive token as well, and I've got these airdrops as well. Where the fuck did all that come from? You're like, yep, welcome to Web3, boo.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I love that stuff.
I think it's really cool that you know, what we've done with, and I didn't even talk about, you know, like infrastructure platforms that we've worked on, you know, like Leo Infra, where we've made it so that people with Facebook and Twitter accounts can sign in with the click of a button, you know, in less than 30 seconds. And those users, and you know, just what reminded me of that is your point that some people kind of look at it 6 months later and they're like, oh, I earned, you know, Leo, I earned Hive, I earned all these other second layer tokens, and I mean, a lot of them even learn that they even have a Hive account. They don't even really realize what they're using, and that's kind of the key, I think, because when you look at the internet, you know, most people don't understand what infrastructure they're working on. They don't understand the base layer. They understand the application that they're using, like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and that's kind of where Web3 is headed. So I do think it's really cool that people are getting inundated in Web3 without feeling like overwhelmed with all the, oh, here's your keys, you got to save them, you got to do all this stuff, and that's everything you got to learn on day one. I think that's too overwhelming. So I think, you know, a big focus for us over the past, you know, 6 months has been really making that onboarding process more seamless, and making it so that, you know, when someone signs up and signs in, it takes, you know, as much time as it did on Web 2. But then over time, you know, and this is something I want to get better at, is teaching them, hey, take control of your keys. You know, this is how you store them properly. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. To take over control of your data, and you know, I just think that's where I think that's the future of Web3, is making it as easy to use as Web 2 in the beginning, but then kind of deeply ingraining that stuff in the you know, down the road.
Yeah, and you know, it's really cool because you see all these different solutions come up for the sign-in. We all know how difficult the sign-up's been over the years for this Web3 technology, and certainly you guys are definitely guys that have got on top of that and solved the issue. I like to say now that 3 speakers also solved the issue. I had one of my friends who didn't know about this stuff a month ago. I just gave him the site and said sign up, and it took him 30 seconds because of the way we've got the sign up set up now. And it's the thing that kind of annoys me about this is people discard it. They'll use the technology and then say, oh, I couldn't sign up, and then they'll cast it away. It's like, no, this is like the internet in 1995. We're building, we're constantly improving, we're making new methods to sign up. And this brings me to another point, which I think you might be really interested in. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Voltec, one of our amazing devs, has worked quite quite a lot on Ceramic Network, and I'm not sure if you're aware of Ceramic Network, but it's basically an off-chain distributed database. So there's no blockchain behind it, but it's a set of nodes that people can run voluntarily. And they have a very basic sign-up process. And what it allows you to do, what we've done is we've built a system where basically you can log in with a Ceramic account, and then you can post offline, post off chain, and then everything that's posted off chain goes into an indexer that then front ends can pull the content from to their own front end. So in the same way that Hive does it, just without the blockchain account, now you can post off chain. And then the other cool thing about the Ceramic system is you can attach your Hive account to it. You can attach your Ethereum account to it. You can attach your Bitcoin account to it, right? And other chains will build out over time. And what that does is it allows us to now have a two-phase sign-in process where you can initially sign up with just your email and your password, just like a typical Web 2 sign up, but you don't have the blockchain enabled system until you eventually sign up with your upgrade to your Hive account later. And what that will do is it will make the sign up process a lot smoother, and B, it will allow us to tie in multiple different blockchains to one account. Which means that hopefully in the very near future we'll be having Ethereum accounts use their Ethereum accounts to post on the Hive blockchain. And then, of course, if you want to go further, you want more immutable storage. For example, you don't necessarily want to post your LOL comments on the blockchain, but you might want to post that using your Ceramic account off chain. But for things that you want more permanent on chain, you'll post using your on chain accounts like your Hive account. And then hopefully that ends up freeing up a shit ton of resources off Hive. So now Hive can scale even more with all the ability to post off chain as well. And the intention, the way we're building this out as Speak Network is we want to work with lots of different projects to try to implement this, and not just this, but the other various Web3 tokenomics tools that we're building as well, and just try and help so that other platforms can benefit from this technology in such a way that they don't have to do all the work themselves, And it's like, if you look at these Speak Network tools, you can integrate Web3 into your platform without having to actually do that much work. And so, yeah, we'd be interested to talk to you maybe a bit more offline about that type of stuff. But we're definitely looking to work with guys like you and help you, if there's any way that we can build Web3 type stuff into your platform without you having to do hardly any work, I think everyone wins, So yeah, definitely interested in talking to you offline about that stuff later.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, goes to the broader point of Web3, which is connectivity, right? So you just want to be, in my opinion, you want to be connected to every potential platform that you can be in, and yeah, so that's definitely interesting to me, and I think it's interesting to really anybody who believes in that core mission of Web3, which is simply access.
Yeah, sure. Looking forward to that. So, what have you guys got coming up then? I know there's lots of talk. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to follow Leofinance as much as I'd want to personally, but I do keep an eye on you guys, and I know you guys have got some interesting airdrops and things coming up. Would you be able to tell people about how they can get access to those airdrops and what those airdrops do for them and when they're going to be?
Yeah. So right now there's actually an airdrop ongoing, and I think a lot of people listening are probably familiar with Splinterlands and the airdrop that they're doing with SPS. So we basically took inspiration from that and built out this airdrop for the Cub token, which is our Binance Smart Chain DeFi app. So what we're doing is airdropping over 60 days a new token called PolyCub, which is our Polygon DeFi app. And we're airdropping that to anyone who basically buys and stakes Cub on Binance Smart Chain. And what we're really achieving with this, obviously we're not just creating tokens for the sake of creating tokens. What we're doing is trying to basically achieve achieve this cross blockchain connectivity. Basically just the exact point we were just talking about, which is essentially these various layers of technology that are all connected to each other, and all aimed at that mission of width and depth for our community. So in terms of airdrops, obviously a lot of people use airdrops, and I think that's pretty much what we're using it for, is to generate hype, generate attention, also to generate value for the people that are involved. So that's really kind of the core purpose of an airdrop, and we're doing that right now with Cub, and then obviously a lot of people, especially Task, will tell you about Project Blank and something we've been building for over a year now, which is when
he needs to
Project
change
Blank.
his middle name to Project Blank. That boy does.
Yeah, he needs to be Task when Project Blank Master 4450. So yeah, so we're building all this stuff out, and obviously that's going to be an airdrop to Leo holders since it's a social app, and that's kind of how we're building everything out. But yeah, everything is built out in this expansive mindset, because we just believe that you want to go where the people are, because if you build it, they're not going to come, but if you build it and you put yourself in front of people, then they have no choice.
So how do you get access to your Cub airdrop? Who's eligible for that?
Yeah, so anyone staking Cub in it's called the Cub Kingdom, which is basically a single stake vault where you basically just buy Cub and stake it in there. Think of it kind of like a Cub bank account almost. Anyone in there gets access to it, and then anyone in the 2 liquidity pools who are obviously providing liquidity depth for the whole platform, which is extremely valuable. Anyone in those 3 places basically earns the airdrop, and then they go over. So what's kind of cool about the airdrop is that it's a cross-chain claim drop. So you stake assets on CubDeFi.com, which is Binance Smart Chain, and then you're basically connected to PolyCub.com, which is on the Polygon network, and then you can go over to that UI and you can claim based on your holdings on a different blockchain, which is again going back to that point of constant expansion and connectivity.
Do you guys have any scope or capability to maybe list other tokens on Binance Smart Chain from the Hive community, such as Larynx?
Yeah, it really depends on the token makeup. A lot of people have been asking us to do something with Hive and HBD, but what we really need is we need a BEP20, which is Binance Smart Chain's version of ERC20. And once we've got that, we can list any token. So a few people have asked, if we can do different things like create a wrapping oracle and run a version of wrapped Hive, wrapped HBD, which I obviously think is kind of in the roadmap for the future. But same thing could be done with the Larynx token, and I don't know what base layer chain you're building that on, and what what your plans are in terms of wrapped tokens. But if you do have a wrapped version on BEP20, then 100%.
With the Larynx token, we drop into the Speak Claim chain, which disregard fiat from Deluxe and using the honeycomb technology has spun up this chain for us in like a few weeks. It's an amazing piece of work, and we've currently got 28 nodes or 29 nodes operating on that. Some of them are in the room, and yeah, it's just fantastic. We've got another 10 days to go we've ironed out all the bugs as far as we're concerned. We're pretty good that it's going well, and we've just got another 10 days till we do the drop. So we'll be dropping the Larynx token on Hive's 2nd birthday on the 20th. Please join us if you've got time. It's a Sunday. We're going to do it on 9 a.m. PST. We'll have a live stream where we present everything that the team's doing. And we just think there's a lot of things to cross over with you guys as well in terms of Leofinance, regards to these ceramic off-chain accounts, regards to just some of the running storage nodes and the ability to store some of your content offline, store some stuff online, the ability to spin up these communities, and also have token creation. We're basically focusing on creating, allowing anyone to be able to create their own tokens and do it as cheaply, as freely as possible. There's other models out there that cost, basically running as a business. We don't agree with that. We like to do it free and open source. And then on the other side, it's like, can we figure out a way to bring the likes of Leofinance into running infrastructure in the Speak network to help people get access to these tools in a decentralized way? And then as a result, Leofinance then over time would earn ownership in the Speak network, as because the network would automatically pay you out ownership governance tokens, and just try to spread the ownership of this side system to the Hive ecosystem that does offline content, and incentivize it as wide as possible to get as many key players involved in it as possible. So, really looking forward to hopefully working with you guys on that and just building this thing out together.
Yeah.
Could be super cool. Yeah. And then the last thing was, I wanted to mention to you that I don't know if you've heard of our idea of something called a SIP, a service infrastructure pool.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that. I don't, admittedly, I never read the whole white paper, so I don't fully understand it.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Nor did we. But we wrote it, so we should understand it. No, joking. I'll tell you who's the foremost expert in the world at the SIP now. It's not me or Dan. It's Taskmaster. He knows that shit better than we do. He's great. But basically, the principle of a SIP is essentially a DeFi pool, standard DeFi pool. But on the inside, on the payment inside, you have to pay in to receive miner tokens from the network, right? So if people are paying into the pool and then it's splitting that into 3 or 4 different liquidity pools, different liquidity pairs, and giving the person that's paid in the right to mine in the ecosystem, you've got, and the idea is that over time the miners become less efficient and the newest miners that come out are more efficient. So at a certain point, people are incentivized to go buy the next set of miners and pay back into the liquidity pool. So you've got this inflow into the liquidity pool that's locked there permanently and it never gets unstaked out. You can still stake in and stake out as with a standard liquidity pool, except in this case, you've invented a reason for people to put liquidity in to get some value out of the ecosystem in exchange, right? So that liquidity is locked in permanently. And then the fees from that pool, obviously, in a standard way, they go to the stakers. But in the other side of the fees that are generated from this locked liquidity, they go to support the infrastructure of the ecosystem. So they go to support the node operators. That those fees go to support the DAO of the ecosystem. And so what we're trying to do is this big. You have to pay in with Hive, so it's a Hive sync. It locks that Hive in permanently, and then it pays out fees to the infrastructure providers in the network, as well as the stakers. And it's potentially this massive liquidity pool for Hive, which can maybe be broken into 1 or 2 pools, or maybe a few smaller pools. But we're looking at creating these large liquidity sinks for the Hive ecosystem. And yeah, with you guys already doing the DeFi side of things as well, we'd like to figure out maybe in the future a way that we can build with you, maybe to build these SIP pools out for the Hive ecosystem and have Leofinance benefit as well as the Speak Network benefit and Hive benefit in general from these liquidity pools that we can create that are useful not just for staking and getting fees out, but also for creating permanent liquidity and then paying out some of the fees to the infrastructure providers in the network.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think that type of pooling infrastructure is the future of how things are going to work. It's just we've seen an expansion of it with just these yield apps, but what you guys are doing sounds like you're taking that to the next level with actual infrastructure incentives, which I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we do too, and we hope that we can figure out a way that we can create combined liquidity pools with what you guys are doing, maybe, because you guys are already creating liquidity. So it's like, can we figure out a way to combine that with a SIP type infrastructure that pays out as well to infrastructure providers? I don't know how it looks in the future, but I think there's definitely something there, and I think we should definitely keep kind of touch base from time to time and see where we can benefit from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then I guess the last thing is Project Blank. It's funny because I know how you feel. I think you've had some delays with it, and it's because you guys want to get it right, of course. And we have the same problem with the Larynx miner token. We promised a claim drop back in January, and it's been delayed, but for the right reasons. We feel we've done the right thing to delay to this point. I think it's the same story with you guys and Project Blank. So it's eagerly anticipated by many people. I've heard it spoken about many times, but maybe you can give us a few details about what Project Blank is and when you plan to release it and what it's going to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely delaying things so that you can build it right is I think a smart move. When you rush things, you can definitely make mistakes and when it comes to especially key infrastructure, I think you got to take your time and build it right. And we had an original vision for what Project Blank is. So for anyone that might not know, it's basically our version of Web3 Twitter. So it's literally going to look like Twitter. The testnet looks like identical to Twitter. It feels like you're using Twitter. But the key is, and what we've talked about here is that backend, all the accounts, all the text, all the data is stored on chain, and it's stored on the Hive blockchain. And what's so cool about that is right now you can use Hive to blog long form content and a lot of people don't like if you post, you know, short content for a variety of reasons. But what we're doing is essentially building a second layer infrastructure that can store text on chain, but not in base level posts. It stores it in custom JSON. So you know, it's super interesting, and the vision obviously changed a lot when I realized, you know, how big we could make this thing. So, you know, I wanted to launch it with, you know, with a lot of different features where people could, you know, run nodes and essentially confirm that second layer from the get-go, and that's kind of where we're taking things. It's you know, storing that content, but storing it in a decentralized, you know, on-chain way. You know, in terms of timeline, it's definitely gotten pushed back a lot, but I think we're doing it right. I think it's, you know, we're taking our time. We're putting all the infrastructure in place, and that's the key.
But by the way, what you're saying to me sounds incredibly similar to what we're building with these ceramic accounts. The idea that you can store text, it'll be off chain on the IPFS network. But the idea is that the indexer that we're building combines both the on-chain Hive posts and the off-chain posts on the ceramic network, and so you're going to be able to pull the data to your front end, whether it's on-chain or off-chain. So maybe there's a way we can work to integrate some of that into Project Blank at some point as well. I think that'll probably help you at least. As long as we're helping, you know. If we're not, then we're not. But I think that what we're doing is there's a lot of synergies there. So you know, let's save some resources and work together.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. I really appreciate having you on the show, man. And it's just really cool to speak to the man himself. I know your project's been going for what, 4 years now, and you guys are just kind of trailblazing the whole decentralized community model, and it seems to be absolutely kicking ass. So I think there's a lot of good things for the future coming for you guys, and appreciate your time here today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate it. I'm a listener sometimes. I like your when you guys talk about this stuff, because obviously it's closely related to what we're doing in Web3. So